2.
Good evening. I'm your host, Karen Hudis, in this series on the network of global corporate control. Today's segment is called The Nantucket Sleigh Ride. Thanks to DCTV, Carmen Stanley, studio producer and director, Maurice Jackson, audio, Crystal Branton, prompter, and Cruchet Starnes, floor director. What is a Nantucket Sleigh Ride? It's the term for harpooning a whale in a rickety boat and letting the whale swim itself tired before killing the whale. The whale is the Banking Cartel. After I harpooned the whale last week, I have said that the whole world is now on a Nantucket Sleigh Ride. How did I harpoon the whale? The Central Intelligence Agency tried to bribe me, and I caught them red-handed. In July, I used the analogy of Moby Dick, which is the name of the famous American novel by Herman Melville about a whale named Moby Dick. I explained that things were taking so long to turn around, just like it was hard to catch a whale. And I said, in case you're wondering why it's taking so many fatal body blows to do the Banking Cartel in, just think about what it took in Moby Dick to kill the whale. It takes teamwork and many repeated harpoons, because the leviathan is so big. This is an excerpt from Herman Melville's Moby Dick, and you can see that in the teleprompter. On the 14th of August, I placed a harpoon in the network of global corporate control. To be more exact, in the CIA. The CIA was trying to steal the assets in the global debt facility through a lawsuit against CMKX Diamonds. The CIA tried to get me to vote the U.S. shares on the Board of Governors and allow the global debt facility to fund settlement of this CIA lawsuit by sending me shares in CMKX Diamonds. When the CIA tweeted that the CIA was going to rise like a phoenix via the theft of the global facility in the CMKX lawsuit. Excuse me, could you go back a little bit? I'm having a hard time keeping up with you. I said that the settlement of this lawsuit wasn't going to be paid for by the global debt facility. I tweeted back that the CIA was getting wound down in the global debt facility, just like the rest of the network of global corporate control, and that I was holding the shares of CMKX Diamonds in escrow for the beneficiaries of the global debt facility. For people whose eyes glaze over at all this legal mumbo-jumbo, what you need to know is that everything is out in the open, and we're all working together to sort things out. By sorting things out, we mean the corrupt bullies aren't getting their way anymore. But sometimes whales drag the whalers along for some time until the whales get tired. There's no doubt that the CIA is harpooned. The CIA and the rest of the network of global corporate control are not going to shake us loose if the harpoon is big enough. Because enough people are paying attention, I think this harpoon is big enough. Then the following day, I said, let's drill down on what's happening. We have mentioned before that the Central Intelligence Agency is working for the network of global corporate control, and that the CIA is headquartered in Switzerland. We've been learning about what the CIA's involvement was in the assassination of John Kennedy. At the end of June, I tweeted that the term conspiracy theorist was a term made popular by the CIA to stop critical thinkers from asking questions about JF Kennedy's assassination. In a memo called Countering Criticism of the Warren Report, the CIA set out to make the term conspiracy theorist a weapon to be used against anyone who questioned the government's secret activities and programs. 8 days before JFK was assassinated, he signed the Green-Hilton Agreement to access the U.S. monetary gold reserves in the global debt facility, and you can see in the teleprompter that agreement. On the 29th of July, I tweeted, "It took me more than an hour to access this unvarnished interview in 2007 of Tony Gambino. The link was broken in my email, and then my internet was disconnected. A man working for the mafia shot JFK in the head from a storm drain. The Secret Service, working for the banking cartel, left JFK unprotected. Jean said these disclosures were very interesting. Even after people know about the CIA memo, some journalists still accuse people of being conspiracy theorists. Kurt Anderson, in the Atlantic's cover story in September, accused the entire nation of going haywire. I said that the Atlantic and corrupt journalists were the ones that were haywire, and that the Atlantic was owned by the banking cartel. Calvin Tenebro asked me a question on Twitter, and a couple of days later, he emailed me trying to steal the assets in the global debt facility for Anthony Santiago Martin. ASM is the reason that there's a confrontation in the South China Seas. ASM was not authenticated by the Board of Governors of the World Bank and IMF as required. I have tweeted the letter from China's ambassador, Kui Tianke, to John Kerry so many times. I told Tenebro he was not validated by the Board of Governors of the World Bank and could not access the world's wealth. Then I blocked him. And in the teleprompter, you'll see a picture, I don't know if it's up behind me on the screen, but it illustrates how the banking cartel has used the District of Columbia Municipal Corporation to impersonate the United States government. I posted that picture in a tweet about a comment that I made on Russia Insider. The article in Russia Insider described how Russia and China are replacing Federal Reserve notes with gold to pay for international trade. I just said that it was me who harpooned the whale, but it's more accurate to say that it's a team humanity that's harpooning the whale. In the DC TV segment on the 8th of August, I said, the banking cartel has underestimated our ability to put the puzzle pieces together. My job has been to sort through the pieces of information about the world's wealth in the global debt facility, to identify the stakeholders that are part of the coalition for the rule of law, who are carving up that insolvent network of global corporate control, and to share that information in a way that makes sense. The banking cartel never thought that they would be exposed or that humanity would stand up to them. Many people on Team Humanity have retweeted the link to that segment. Let me give you another example of Team Humanity at work. I mentioned in the DCTV segment of August 8th how the network of global corporate control tried to nuke Charleston on October 8, 2013. The day after I uploaded that segment on the internet, Patience Wright tweeted the link to a forgotten November 10, 2013 interview by Christopher Hudson that had 500,000 views. It was called Whistleblower, Secret Plot to Nuke Parts of the USA Exposed. And we're going to see excerpts from that interview now.
To entrap people in hotels.
Wow. That was a huge bomb.
I have one that's even worse.
I'm listening.
Okay. A couple of weeks ago, I believe it was the 8th of October, there was supposed to be a nuclear bomb detonated on South Carolina. And 2 Army generals made sure that that bomb went off the coast, 600 miles off the coast, and detonated undersea. And those military officers were fired. And now, at this point, there are about 180 generals and brass that are being fired. And these are the people that are protecting the citizens of the United States.
Ian Sawyer And a good evening to you on this Friday night, and we start with a developing story, a shakeup at the highest levels of the U.S. military. A top general in charge of nuclear weapons fired, and this comes 48 hours after another top military commander was dismissed. ABC's chief global affairs correspondent Martha Raddatz has been talking to her sources all day, has the very latest on what's happening right now. Martha.
Diane, these officers have some of the highest security clearances you can get and have been in charge of the nation's most sensitive nuclear arsenals. A stunning chain of events. Today, Michael Carey, the two-star general responsible for the nation's 3 intercontinental ballistic missile wings, fired from his command. The reason? Personal misbehavior on a military business trip. This comes just 48 hours after President Obama himself relieved the number 2 in command over the nation's nuclear arsenal over his suspected use of counterfeit poker chips. These follow an alarming string of general officers losing their jobs this year for inappropriate behavior, misconduct, or lack of leadership. 2 Marine Corps generals fired less than 2 weeks ago for not providing proper force protection in Afghanistan. An Army Brigadier General relieved of duty for adultery. An Army 2-star general fired for groping a civilian. And in March, a Navy 1-star removed for racially insensitive comments and abusive leadership. Last spring, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff was so concerned about all the high-profile cases, he sent a letter to Pentagon brass urging a recommitment to ethical leadership.
And that's why they're being removed.
I also want to tell you about my conversation with Ty Hampton. Ty told me about the military oath. The military, apart from a few rotten apples in the brass, remained loyal to the United States Constitution of 1789. By now, 70% of the U.S. military understand that in 1861 the Banking Cartel suspended the Constitution of 1789 under the Lieber Code, and then in 1871 put a second secret constitution into effect. In our 8th segment 2 years ago, we spoke of General MacArthur's testimony. General MacArthur said, "I find in existence a new and heretofore unknown and dangerous concept that the members of our armed forces owe primary allegiance and loyalty to those who temporarily exercise the authority of the executive branch of the government, rather than to the country and its constitution which they are sworn to defend. No proposition could be more dangerous. None could cast a greater doubt upon the integrity of the armed services, for its application would at once convert them from their traditional and constitutional role as the instrument for the defense of the Republic into something partaking of the nature of a Praetorian Guard, owing its allegiance to the political master of the hour." 4 months after this segment, a U.S. troop sent me an email saying that he was on the front line and that we have 70% of the U.S. military on our side. At the end of July, I said that I was on the side of the 99%ers. Okay, now I understand my job in the global currency reset. I'm sitting in the center of humanity, and I am supposed to let everyone else know what's going on to the best of my ability. Because I've been doing this for some time, and people know me, both the elites and the 99%ers, I have credibility with both groups. My loyalty is with the 99%ers. I've been attacked, arrested, but I'm still alive, and I've let the crooks know that I will not back down. I'm getting a lot of help. I try to let everyone know who's helping me. I've gotten a lot of on-the-job training in this job of being the overseer mandate trustee of the global debt facility containing the world's wealth. Sometimes I don't know who's been helping me. Humanity has a lot of capabilities, and learning what we're capable of is one of the first benefits we're going to have in the global currency reset. Okay, enough said. I'm going to show you two pictures that illustrate my function as Overseer Mandate Trustee of the Global Debt Facility. And I don't know if it's on the screen in front of you. One is a picture of a switchboard operator, and the other is a picture of a canary in the coal mine. And then I have in the teleprompter a definition of critical thinking. And I'm not going to read that, but I'll leave it up to you to read it yourself. The reason I've been asking you to work together with people close to you to reason out what's going on is because this is a good way to improve critical thinking. The last item in today's segment is a discussion about how we're working together in the global currency reset. You can certainly go it alone. I'm a resource person who's working together with the institutions that administer the world's wealth, that is, the 189 ministers of finance and development on the Board of Governors of the World Bank and International Monetary Fund. We've been communicating in my social media, and you all have been sending me emails and commenting. YouTube shows 1.5 million views of this DCTV series archives. Many of the questions are answered by other people who are following this saga, especially for the last two segments. This is wonderful and indicates that the National War College's power transition model has been telling us that there's 90 to 95% likelihood that there are coalitions to transition peacefully to a money system that uses actual gold and local currencies issued by villages and towns, and ends the corruption in the network of global corporate control. Many of the details in the transition are up to us to decide. In the remaining time, I want to talk to you about the press release that the Board of Governors issued for the global currency reset, which has been retweeted in the Internet archives. I cleared this press release before it was issued, and the press release remained up on the Internet for over a year before the Banking Cartel took it down. I also want to talk to you about what you're not hearing. You didn't hear back from Heather Gerken, who's the new dean of Yale Law School. She is an expert in election law. You also didn't hear back from Robert Post, who used to be dean of the Yale Law School, and he's a constitutional law expert. And you also didn't hear back from Neil Gorsuch. I've accused them of lying to you, and I repeat this again today. I've said that the entire legal profession needs to be put in the trash because the lawyers are all working for the banking cartel and helping the banking cartel steal all your property. I've said that you don't have valid titles to your property because the governors of the 50 states agreed to steal your property for the bankers. The governors are not giving you the title to your property even after you pay off your mortgages or for your houses, for your cars. I've also said that the U.S. Constitution of 1789 is not in effect. Anton Scalia was murdered just days after I accused him point blank of this very same corruption. Who should you believe? That Justice Scalia was murdered because he didn't like being personally responsible and continuing all the lies to the American people who are being robbed of their property by the banking cartel, after so many people have documented everything I'm telling you, or known liars with a history of falsehoods and complicity with the CIA. I'm talking about veterans today. Last week, in response to an article on North Korea in ABC, I tweeted that both General Dunford and Donald Trump were bankrupt traitors, and that North Korea was not descending into World War III. And I showed how both Trump and Dunford were exposed in a picture of their trousers around their ankles. I also put a copy of the commercial lien bankrupting them on the internet. These gentlemen defaulted on the commercial lien because they couldn't deny the truth of my statements in the commercial lien. This is very basic. They aren't defending themselves. Their silence is telling you all you need to know. The global currency reset to rid humanity of the corrupt money system that's keeping us enslaved is on track. With every passing day, it's growing increasingly difficult for the banking cartel to continue. Right now, the banking cartel is concentrating its efforts on trying to convince me that the power transition model from the United States National War College, which is 90 to 95% accurate, is not holding true. The power transition model, which the U.S. military owns and understands, is on track. This means that General Dunford's treason is exposed. Did you hear General Dunford defend himself? Did you hear any of the 189 ministers of finance and development on the World Bank's Board of Governors, or any of the member countries of the World Bank and IMF contradict anything I've said, including that I am authorized to speak for them on the global currency reset? Did you hear Donald Trump or Neil Gorsuch say that the U.S. Constitution of 1789 is in effect? I've given Donald Trump so many opportunities to join us on the correct side, first during the primaries, and then when he sent Nita Johnson to try and bribe me after he faked the elections, which were not legal because the Constitution was not in effect. Trump is a liar, and he's continuing to lie. He was never duly elected by the American people because a military government was already secretly in place, stealing all Americans' properties under war powers. Here is what I tweeted about Donald Trump, and that's in the teleprompter. I have bankrupted General Dunford for defaulting on a commercial lien. General Dunford went into default because he couldn't deny the truth of my statements. When I called for Secretary Hagel to court-martial the traitors in the military, Hagel was forced to resign 4 days later. I defeated that Vatican agent Anna von Wright's attempt to steal the world's assets for General Dunford on the 26th of January in 2016. And the day after that, in a letter to General Dunford, which I tweeted to the world, I held General Dunford accountable for refusing to reinstate Vice Admiral Tim Giardina and Major General Michael Carey after these heroes foiled the network of global corporate control's crime of flying armed nukes from one end of the USA to the other. After General Dunford attacked me in an attempt to steal the U.S. monetary gold reserves for the network of global corporate control, I discussed General Dunford's treason on the following DCTV broadcast. That was February 9, 2016. It was on that same show that I discussed the corruption in the legal profession. A week later, Justice Scalia was murdered. The corruption in the courts, in the money system, in the legal profession, this is all in plain view. The lawyers are refusing to reply. So are crooked politicians like Donald Trump. When these agents of the banking cartel have no response, even when they know that this is going to put them in default in a commercial lien and result in their bankruptcy, this is a clear admission of guilt. Now, I don't know what we're doing on time. I see the outro statement. Shall I? I've got 6 minutes. That's fantastic, because a lot of people are saying that they would much rather that I speak to them from the heart than reading the teleprompter. So this is wonderful. Well, you've seen a very interesting clip. You see that the brass in the military that refused to nuke the American people in Charleston were fired. And I went to the personnel department in the military, and I asked what were these pretexts? What was the reason that 189 officers were fired? And that was John Reimer, who was the person who was then responsible for that. And I've also bankrupted John Reimer. And when I tried to take John Reimer's house, that was when the banking cartel prevented me. So all of these crooks, they're going to be held accountable. One of the discussions that we've had is people are very unhappy that we're not going to be throwing a lot of the agents of the banking cartel in jail. And so I'd like to talk a little bit about why we're not doing that. Think about it. The size of the corruption is phenomenal. This corruption has not come about overnight. It's been with us since the previous ice age. One of the things that we're not going to be talking about is religion, and that is because the religions have been preceded by a lot of history that we don't know. We've been on the earth a long time, and you can tell that because of maps of Antarctica, which are accurate. The coastline is accurate, but it's now under ice. That means that people were sailing in Australia and Antarctica before the ice age. So we are not in a position to do any judgment because we really, so many people are part of this very long-standing corruption. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to, I'm not saying that people should continue working in the jobs that they now hold, but I'm saying that they're not going to step aside peacefully if they know that they're going right to jail. So we have got to agree that there's going to be amnesty, and we're going to have to tackle things in sequence. That means that we're going to get rid of the corruption slowly and systematically. And the only way to do that is from the grassroots up. That means that the local currencies in the villages and towns have got to be there, and all of the merchants have got to accept those local currencies. So that's the number one thing that we need to be doing right now, from the get-go. Now, the banking cartel is trying every which way to frighten us. And the fact of the matter is that we do hold all the cards. And you're going to see that in next week's program, which we're going to be pre-recording. I want to thank you for listening to another segment of the Network of Global Corporate Control. In this segment about the Nantucket Sleigh Ride, we have seen how the whale, that is, the network of global corporate control, is becoming more and more exposed as it tires, and we land harpoons in the whale. There is disclosure of the CIA memo calling people who didn't believe the Warren Commission about JFK's assassination conspiracy theorists, and then the Atlantic saying that there were too many conspiracy theorists in America. There is the 2013 video about the purge of nuclear launch officers in the military after the attempted nuke in Charleston, and 70% of the U.S. military support me and their oath of loyalty to the U.S. Constitution. When someone said the CIA was going to rise as a phoenix because of the CMKX lawsuit, I said that the CIA had been trying to bribe me with shares in CMKX. Stay tuned as the network of global corporate control and the Nantucket Sleigh Ride end. Thank you for watching this segment.